Hi all, and welcome back to a new video where we are going to be previewing day 3 of the Leopardstown Christmas Festival and all the runners and riders for Saturday's card, which should be another great day's racing. As you well know, probably from the tips themselves, it was another trying day, another testing day at Leopardstown. Just Christmas often can bring some bizarre results up, I feel. And there was a couple of races today that I just would have never got near, to be honest. The 3-year-old maiden, a 33-1 winner beating a 20-1 winner. Mellon obviously won City Island, an awful lot to be desired about his jumping. I think he still would have actually been banged there, which is a sign of how good he is, considering his jumping was poor. Then they had the big 2-mile chase. Chacun Pour Soi turned over by A Plus Tard. I wouldn't be giving up on Chacun Pour Soi at all. I thought he ran a good race. A Plus Tard's not a bad horse. And those Mullins horses, they just don't seem to ever be quite ready for that race. I think he leaves them at around 85-90% for that race, because not the first horse that's gone off short for him and hasn't produced the goods when he needed to in that race. But I thought it was a decent effort, but obviously a bit disappointing at the same time. Abacadabra won the novice hurdle, and this is one that's going to cause a lot of contention, because I was obviously at Leopardstown. I thought it was a really unimpressive display. Blue Sari went out like a light, and actually it travelled well, jumped well, and then just went out like a light. Was breathing heavily post-race. There was obviously a wind issue wrong with him. Embittered was beaten, I'd say, after a hurdle or two. He was leading up to the first, then got headed, and then I don't know whether he threw his toys out of the pram or what, but I wouldn't read into the fact that he's beaten him, that Abacadabras has beaten him more than in the Royal Bond. Embittered did not run his race. And he's made heavy enough weather getting past Heaven Help Us. I just think from a Supreme Novices Hurdle perspective, he doesn't jump well, and he doesn't find that much for pressure. Unless he wins the Supreme on the bridle, which I don't think he will, I can't have him, to be honest. I know that's a bit of a controversial opinion, but I just can't have him. And obviously Jerry Hannon's calling the Paddy Power. Gee, it was like the Gary Neville one with the Torres goal for Chelsea, where he had his voice almost breaking at the time. But you know what? It was a great call from Jerry. So going on to tomorrow's action, and starting off with the 12:15, which is a maiden hurdle. It looks a pretty good maiden hurdle at that, over 2 mile 4, and I'm siding here with John Snow. Surprise, surprise. Mullins short one here at 6-4 for Mullins and Townend. And the reason I do this was he came from France with a bit of a reputation, and his third is working out really well. Front View is a very good horse, and he won that maiden hurdle down in Cork. After being second to MYLN, was second to Blue Sari in a bumper, won a Punchestown bumper. He's a good horse, and New Tread was second in that race, who then went on to win a listed bumper at Navan, I think, a couple of weeks ago by 5 lengths. So it looks really solid form in the book. The 3 of them were miles clear, and he looked like he just needed to polish up his jumping a bit. That's obviously what you're taking into consideration here. The main rival is the Boss's Oscar for Gordon Elliott. He's 5-2. He's a worthy second favourite, having won a bumper, and then pressed Blue Sari very close on hurdling debut. But I still think he's a bit defined. Blue Sari obviously didn't frank that form today, so you wouldn't know. One at a price perhaps is Runrised, I think at 9-1 for Mullins. He obviously ran an okay race on his stable debut before being pitched into the Triumph. In lighter waters, you might see him to better effect. In the 12:50, I said at the start of the week that I thought 2A Permis was going to run in this race, and that they were going to get him try to get him qualified for the Pertemps. But now that I look at it, I really think he could win this race. He's 6-1. He is short for a race like this. I wouldn't usually put up a horse like that, but I think he's just got so much in hand that he could, and I do mean could, go close. 2 at bigger prices for that, though, I feel, are A Great View at 20-1. He ran a very eye-catching race last month at Punchestown over 2 miles. That's just clearly not enough for him. Usually wins one of these 3-mile hurdles. And Thermistocles at 25-1 was third in this race last year, behind Cuneo and Walk to Freedom. Ran a very good race that day, and hasn't really gone off the boil that much, but returns here and hopefully can go alright at 25 to 1. The Ballymaloe Foods Beginners Chase. Willie Mullins hasn't had brilliant luck in this race before. Obviously Bacardi's fell in the race last year, but Allaho is a horse with a big reputation, and 13 to 8 could be short, but he does come in here with some very good hurdling form in the book from his novice days. I don't know. He is short, but I think he's the most likely winner in my book. I think the one that will certainly be banged there from an each-way perspective is Canardier at 6 to 1. He would have won last time out. I'm absolutely certain of it. I think he'll go well at 6s. As it's not really much of an each-way price, but I think he'll be banged there in the front 3 if he jumps around safe and sound. I've got a pretty big impression here on the Frank Ward Memorial Hurdle. I quite like Bacardi's as a horse, but I think 6 to 4 is just not a price I want to be taking. Apple's Jade, I don't know how you could be backing her at 3 to 1. Just based on her recent form, which is a shame. Obviously, it'd be great to see her back, but I don't think we will. But Penn Hill here at 7 to 2 ran an actual stormer on his reappearance in the Hatton's Grace. Was banged there 2 out and just weakened out of it. Needed the run, obviously. 2-4 would have been too short as well. Back up to 3 miles here. Robbie Power in the saddle. That's a no-back number. And I just think he's got a heap of improvement to come. And I'm all in here. 7 to 2 is short now, I must say. He was 5 or 6 to 1 the other day. And that sounded more like the price. And that's what I went on. But 7 to 2 could be alright. The handicap hurdle, the 2 mile 4 handicap hurdle, a difficult race every year. I've got 2 here at half decent prices. By the same token, at 7 to 1 for Russell Sullivan and Darragh O'Keefe, beat the favourite Encore Louis over 2 miles last time out, staying on very strongly in a first time tongue tie. Obviously needs to improve again, but he's still in off the bottom of the weights here and could be close to going in again. And the winner of this race last year was a horse called the Churchgate for Matthew Smith and Keith Donoghue in the saddle. He ran an eye-catching race on a seasonal reappearance, went 4th at Navan over 2 mile 6. He drops back to 2 mile 4 here, and I think will be primed to run a big race. The Savills Chase itself, you all know I'm in a big camp that Kemboy and Alboon Voter are the 2 horses to beat for the Gold Cup this year, and I'm not going to go away from that, even though I just think it could be a Willie Mullins day tomorrow. Usually over Christmas at Leopardstown there's at least one day where he starts really banging in winners, and this could be the day tomorrow. Kemboy's 15 to 8 now. He's actually going out in price. And again, the one I would be siding with, perhaps on an each-way perspective, is a horse called Delta Work. He was 6 or 7 to 1. I think he would put a line through his running down Royal. He obviously wasn't that right. I don't think the RSA form from last year is that good, but I think he's just being overlooked. I think he's more of 4 or 5 to 1 shot rather than 6 or 7. And in the bumper, Fernie Hollow here for Mullins is 4 to 6. It is very short. It depends on the day you've had. If you've had a good day, I'd be lobbing in on this Fernie Hollow because he ran a stormer really at Fairyhouse when second to Eric Bloodaxe. First of all, Eric Bloodaxe is a very good horse in his own right. Well, Fernie Hollow, he pulled like a train. He hung under pressure, but still was storming home at the end. I think there was an awful lot to like about that. Fakiera here proves to be some sort of opposition and worthwhile opposition for Elliot or Jamie Cobb booked, but the Mullins horse that won the bumper today was a seriously good animal. I think that appreciated. We got him on at 5 to 2, went off 11 to 10. The riding was on the wall, and I just think hopefully Fernie Hollow can produce the same as well. Cheveley Park having a big winner today, and hopefully we can get a 3rd day in a row where Patrick Mullins does the flying dismount. Wouldn't that be some sight to see? Anyway, if you guys enjoyed this video, please do give it a like and subscribe to the channel down below. As always, it really does matter. It really does help me. I love seeing it. I love seeing your comments. I love seeing everything that you guys provide. You've been very loyal fans, and I can't thank you enough for that. And obviously, hopefully, welcoming in some new fans at the same time as well. We're all part of the horse racing community. We all want to see good racing and express our opinions to one another. So that's all for today, and until tomorrow evening, where I'll be back for the day 4 preview. Best of luck tomorrow, and hopefully we can get back with some big winners on a Willie Mullins day at Leopardstown.